Welcome! This is The Real Endgame is Fashion. We will talk today about Star Trek, about how we did some of our designs, why we made certain decisions and choices, why we like Star Trek.
What excites us about working with Star Trek, and we'll touch on a few other points like new design coming out and what's coming up in the future.
What are you wearing?
Right now I'm wearing the new and improved Scoundrel shirt design. It uses a lot of the original Scoundrel shirt design because that was pretty solid to begin with, but something that I really liked about the Exile shirt design was the way the collar, the sort of yoke flows into the neck, and the collar is part of the yoke. And I thought that would work really well with the Scoundrel shirt, and I tested it out, and I thought, yeah, that looks really awesome. And
From a super boring practical perspective, this one is also pre-shrunk and pre-washed, so it's just like easier.
Yep.
I like the brass too. I like the brass buttons with the little brown, light brown top stitching.
And this one's made from the fabric that we custom made in Turkey. So this is our nice this is our more stiff structured shirt fabric, and these are made in New York City. My favorite part of the Scoundrel is like I designed it based on sort of Han Solo, the sort of Star Wars collar. Mm-hmm. But once I designed it, I started, I had this collar or this like lapel in my mind. I have seen this lapel in everything.
Actually, in the most recent Picard trailer, he wears this lapel.
Yeah, it's not even just in the most recent. Like if you look back at Next Generation, like the original Next Generation episodes, there's like a bunch of shirts that have this collar.
Well, nobody really has iterated on it since it was Han Solo's look.
No, it's pretty cool. It kind of just works.
They just sort of like, yeah, cool, square bib equals future.
Sometimes they'll add a button, but that doesn't really make sense.
And it looks dumb as...
And I'm sure that actually sounded terrible with the mic. It's called the Scoundrel shirt because of it being inspired by Han Solo, but it has I guess partly because the costume design is great in the original Star Wars, but like it feels both structured and sort of, it's elevated in its design, but it's also kind of casual. It's got this hanging bib thing, and it manages to like ride the line really nicely.
Yeah, it does.
So I love it. I really like it in our fabric from Turkey. This material is really cool. The structure is great. Feels awesome to wear. Nice. And I just as soon as I thought like let's incorporate that a little bit shorter than the original Exile collar, but it just makes a really nice sleek line. When I design something, the idea comes to my head. I put it, I implement it, and I do not associate it with something that I did. I have this weird, it's like, I had an idea and I made it, but somehow it is not like, it's not about me being able to do this thing. It is just about the fact that I feel like a conduit from chaos, creativity comes down, smites me on the head, and out comes cool designs of clothing.
Yeah, I get it.
It is often that easy, sort of, to come up with an idea. Product development
is a very different.
It's the 90%, 10%. The last 10% is the hardest part, and the last 10% is really 90% of the work.
It's like the make or break it portion of the whether that design works. It's like, is it wearable? Do people,
right?
Can they use it? What do we tell people about it? Just because we have a design, like that's sort of where the work starts. For me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Coming up with an idea is like somehow it's the quickest and easiest part, and then it can take months after that. It can take a day to come up with a design, and come up with a pretty good implementation of it, like a prototype, and then months to make it into a product.
Yeah.
Choosing fabric, working with factories, getting pricing right, all that sort of stuff.
Figuring out what color it's going to be, what's wearable, what is fresh,
Yeah, colors have been especially challenging now that we are not choosing stock colors.
Yes. Choosing stock colors is like choose the best of the worst batch, or the least problematic. Okay, this red doesn't suck. Let's use it. Great.
But we only have one option, so if we want to make it in red and it's good enough, done.
It's got to be that one. Like we don't get to dick around. We just say, okay, well, it's either this weird sky blue or it's navy. Okay, it's going to be navy. Let's move on with navy.
But when we do custom colors, like what red? There's 500 reds, and
At least.
well, but I've decided my favorite red in the entire Pantone color cotton book
Okay, I'm ready.
is rhythmic red.
Rhythmic red.
I think
What's good about it?
it's just the perfect red. It's exactly the red it's like the color of your lipstick. It's like exactly, it's got this it's nice and rich. It's not too bright. It doesn't sort of err on the side of pink.
I feel like my lipstick is more orange than our usual.
You're probably right. But the point is, like, rhythmic red so far is my favorite.
What about saying Syrah red? We were looking at...
Syrah is nice, but Syrah is more port, or Syrah. Yeah. It's more of a wine sort of tone color, whereas if I wanted like a pure red...
Like a cherry red, like a true red garnet red.
Yes.
Like from the black garnet color scheme.
Right. That's more red as opposed to the sort of more burgundy port Syrah, all those words that are associated with wines.
Yeah.
Syrah being so those are my two. Syrah is our sort of deeper red, and rhythmic red is like the perfect assassin red, like that color.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. But even then, when you know exactly what color you want, like then you have to get lab dips, and then they have to be exactly right.
And then they make them weird.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want chili pepper. Don't be giving me chili pepper. I remember when we...
And things change based on the fabric material.
Do you remember when
like
we first ordered with Bob? I'll just stick to first names.
Yep.
And he bought something that was totally wrong, and he really tried to sell us that it was right. He was like, no, it's the red you were looking for. It's even better than what you were looking for. It's heavier than what you were looking for. And we were like, it's not.
If it's not exactly what we were looking for, then it's not better necessarily.
No, yeah. Oh, Bob.
Yes, that was a fun time.
Yep.
We now get to source our own fabrics. It's a different kind of headache, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It means we're getting really nice stuff.
Yeah. And we get to really choose from the grand sea of options, which has its own stress, clearly. Yeah. Syrah.
But it's
rhythmic red.
But it's an opportunity I've been wanting for a very long time. So we've found some really nice fabrics through this process. Star Trek is one of our biggest. It's our biggest license. It's one of our broadest collections.
Yeah.
It's something that we really love personally.
That's true.
And I think it has it holds a very special place in our sort of company ethos.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of important for us to touch on what it is that connects Volante design to Star Trek.
Oh, well, so Star Trek at its heart is a scrappy, to me, it's always the scrappy set of people going out into space to sort of figure something out or fix something or meet some aliens, and they don't know what's going to happen and they don't know how it's going to work. They have some goals and some ideals, and then they figure it out. And I think that's at its core what it can be like to run a small company. It's sort of we have a mission and we have some dreams, and then first contact happens and nobody has quite figured it out yet, and we do our best.
Things don't go according to plan.
Right, things don't go according to plan. I do love the utopian story that is Star Trek. I love the idea that we can do better and build a better structure and society. And I know that makes me a die-hard optimist. And maybe I am, and that's...
Yeah, there is something great about that, having that, our eye on that target. Even within the Star Trek universe, there are some things we have to go through before we can get to that point, but there is a point in the future where we figure this out. And as a society, we get together.
Well, it's not like Star Trek always is enlightened. They definitely go through the eras and the issues and is this race equal to other races, and how do we work with these people whose values are so different than ours. And those are real issues. I mean, I like that about sci-fi in general. I like that sci-fi allows us to explore those themes with a little bit of distance. It's not why are you so racist? It's hey, it's really hard when these people do stuff that seems really disrespectful, and in their culture it makes sense.
Yep.
And how do we grapple with that? And how do we deal with it? It gives us
There's a lot
like
of nuance.
a way to have a conversation about it that doesn't immediately become personal.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a great teaching tool or a great exploratory tool. And I think, of the fantasy sci-fi authors I like, a lot of them kind of unpack some of that. And Star Trek is no different.
Yeah. Well, when compared to the other things in our collection, like most of our stuff,
Like Devil May Cry, for example.
So that's the thing. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Is like most of the stuff in our collection, most of the things that we do are like badass ninja stuff, or badass demon hunters, or badass like. What is it that still makes to you Star Trek something that fits what we do?
Yeah.
And why do people why do our customers also love Star Trek? They're like,
Well, I can't answer that perfectly, but I can try. I think like in a lot of the stories we work with, there is like an individual hero character who's badass. And to me, Star Trek is about the like crew being resourceful and badass and but also very like heartfelt and real.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's an individuality, like each person has a strength.
Right. And a storyline and like their own jokes.
I mean more like you have a division. Like when people identify with wanting to be a part of Starfleet in the same way that they identify with like wanting to be a badass demon hunter. It's a totally different what they want to be, but there is like a want to be that, which makes it so that like that's because our clothing is inspired by but not replicas, but it is about embodying that character. When you put on one of our Star Trek jackets, it's like, oh, I'm part of Starfleet. In the same way that putting on one of our Assassin's Creed jackets is like, I'm an assassin.
Yeah.
It's I am now a part of this thing that I love. And that's something that we can uniquely do with Star Trek.
Yeah, it is. It's like something aspirational.
Yeah. People want to be a part of it. People want to, be wearing they want to take on the uniform.
Just like people really wanted to be sorted into their Hogwarts houses before.
Yes.
She who shall not be named was.
You got to bring it up, huh?
I do. I got to bring it up. That's me. Sorry.
But there is like, yes. That's kind of what I was.
Yeah, but it's about belonging. It's like this is my kind of people. Like these are like, oh, I'm an engineer. I have a super engineering kind of brain. I love to think about blah, blah, and blah. And in some ways, Star Trek gives you such a shorthand way to be like, aha, my fellow engineers.
Or my fellow scientists. Like, people get to choose that, and it's not, there's only 3, but there's so many subdivisions within 3 that you kind of get to like pick, but also specialize.
Yeah. And I think like it's about identity and about belonging. I mean, most stories are about in some way like, who do I want to become and how do I live that life? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a little too big picture, but sometimes it's good to go there.
Yeah.
So which series is this from? She asks as though she does not know.
So today we picked our Strange New Worlds away team jacket, partly because season 3 of Strange New Worlds is coming out next month.
In July.
And also because it's like an extremely wearable, cool. As soon as like everybody, the entire internet blew up, they were like, I want that jacket. Yeah. The minute that I think it was episode 2 of season 1. They were like, away team jackets. Maybe it was season 2? I don't remember.
No, it was definitely season 2.
Yeah, it was season 2, that's right. And it was just like, oh, now this is the jacket we got to make.
That's right.
And we jumped on it. So I have some reference images here of from the episodes.
Yeah.
And we took some, we didn't want to copy it wholesale because we don't copy anything wholesale, but I think there is there's a lot of stuff that
It's been a while since I've looked at the actual reference. So we didn't put in a waistband here.
Right.
Which I think I stand by that choice.
Yep.
It's a little more elongating without it. Like these people are all really hot, so it's not hard to make them look good. But we also try and design things for like normal people.
Yeah.
And sometimes like a waistband, like right at the belly button, ain't it. I wouldn't want it personally.
Yep. Well, and they're wearing slightly taller, higher waisted pants, and they have a shorter
like
waisted
combat
vest,
boots
and that's
that
like
go
a whole.
up to the knee.
It becomes a whole outfit. You make it.
These are Fluvogs, for sure.
Yes, yeah, that's also when Fluvog's shoes were debuted in the series.
And they all have a funny-looking old Polaroid camera thing around their neck. That's not what it's called. I know what it's not that. You can come at me.
It's a tricorder. It's fine. We can say.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's good to give people something in the comments to like shout about. And we know that you, the Star Trek audience, like to find something to be right about. So I'm just giving you something in advance. The Polaroid camera. You can come get me. Just jump. Go for it.
Well, the away team does need a camera, right?
Yeah.
They go down.
They go in places.
They go down to the planet side, and they're like.
It looks like a really cool retro Polaroid camera.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
So we did. I did take away the waistband seam.
Yep. But otherwise, it's like pretty true to the design. This is definitely leather by looking at it, and it has some weird like taped. This is, I think, our solution to this is more practical than what they have done.
Right. I'm pretty sure the tape on these detail lines in the show are just glued on pieces of rubber.
You think it's rubber? I was thinking maybe it's
webbing.
Yeah. Cotton webbing.
I don't think so. I think it's rubber, and I think it's just glued on.
Well.
Yeah.
Costume departments get away with stuff that we cannot.
Yeah, right. They can fix it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we largely used the same shapes and sort of.
Yeah. It's pretty true to the design.
One other thing that I did, obviously, in the show, the shoulders and the side panels and stuff, they all have they have a print, a little Starfleet Delta printed on them.
Yeah, I see it.
In like tiny little deltas.
Almost looks like tiny Delta chainmail.
Yeah, they're really small. They're probably like a 1/4 inch tall or whatever. Instead of that, partly because I always feel like putting actual deltas on the jackets would be very it becomes just a replica. That's part of it that just becomes costuming.
Yeah.
However, we used herringbone fabric, so the detail of the herringbone is this sort of repeating chevron, which is very similar to the delta shape. So that was kind of that was the way of sort of nodding at the deltas without having deltas on it.
Yeah, that's a very niche fabric knowledge application of delta-like patterns, shapes, that I think only you could possibly ever have done.
And now we'll move into Picard.
Cool.
I wanted to talk about this one. It's another modern Star Trek design. Our sort of the older stuff like the Next Generation and Voyager and those all I feel like are they're pretty true to the thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the more modern designs are in the show more designed as jackets than they are as like uniforms.
Yeah.
And I think rumor has it this wasn't even designed as a uniform jacket, but then it was so cool that everyone was like, we want to have that. And so it was like a whole thing. The whole crew was just like, nah, this is the uniform now. So
I have to say they've had some really cool fashion design stuff in the last couple series. The modern Star Trek has gotten
very cool.
Much cooler clothing. Yeah. Do you remember some of the old Star Trek?
Maybe too cool.
Couch cushions and like especially when I think of the Ferengis,
Neelix.
I'm like, yeah, Neelix. God, talking about a fashion disaster. But yeah, there was
Neelix
a lot
and
of
the Ferengi.
weird
Although to be fair, the Ferengi cuts are very drippy.
They are, and that I think is part of the. But
yeah,
they are made out
they
like
look slick,
couch material.
They're made out of terrible material. But the cuts are really awesome.
Yeah.
But this one, so I wanted to talk about this.
I know that your favorite Star Trek character of all time is the Tailor/assassin.
Yes, Garrick.
Yes.
Just the premise of a Tailor/assassin / spy.
It's right up your
It's
alley.
ideal. Yeah. He's just there being like, well, I know how to make clothes, so I guess I'll go open a clothing shop, but I'm also an assassin.
Or something.
Yeah.
Or a spy.
Or
we never really find
a little bit of both.
Yeah. But he's definitely got a cool past.
Yeah, but he's not active right now as a spy. Maybe.
Probably.
But this one, it's a very cool design. It has the like classic yoke shape from Star Trek uniforms.
Top half, bottom half.
Top half, bottom half. It's basically like the Voyager sort of uniform, but as a cool leather jacket.
Yeah. With some like harnessy, shoulder strappy
Yeah,
kind
with
of.
one major difference, which I think is the way the collar is designed. In the reference, the original reference shows the collar has this, black that kind of, the black portion
Yeah.
comes up and it sort of hugs the back of the neck. And it's not a collarless jacket,
Right.
but it is.
Right. Yeah. It a little bit looks like an apron in their version. I think you have done a nice job of like accentuating the angle a little bit more. Like especially on Jordy on this side, he's like.
So that's a different jacket.
Okay, got it. It reads aprony.
Yeah, because so that's a uniform Jordy's wearing where it does the same kind of thing, but then this just comes straight down.
Yeah.
But what I like about that, and the reason I brought that in is that part has this accent color like above the collar.
Yeah.
So like the
you
actual
stole
leather
that,
jacket.
You took that detail and
I
added
took
it
that
over.
detail and brought it in. So those two designs are very connected in terms of what they are. Like this is the uniform version and this is the like streetwear jacket version kind of. But the streetwear jacket version, the leather version, doesn't have a collar.
Yeah.
And
it
I
has
know
a little
there
black
are
turtleneck.
yeah, they're wearing
But
a
of
turtleneck
course.
underneath. And I know that like there are collarless jackets that people wear, like and people I don't know. I have to imagine that people like collarless jackets because they do exist.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen them
I can
before
think
and
of
they
like
look
the
cool.
like sort of Chinese workman wear jacket is fairly collarless.
Yeah,
But then you would have a Mandarin collar under it. Like
yeah. Or just, yeah, I've seen collarless jackets, but I cannot
get into them.
bring myself to make a collarless jacket. So I wanted a collar, and I saw Jordy's uniform, and I was like, oh, that's a way to take this uniform and just, make this a little bit taller, hug the neck a little bit better, and cover a little bit more, so it feels like
The horror of a collarless jacket was avoided.
It hides the collarlessness, but it manages to still keep the shape of this like.
Yeah, it's an innovative way to do it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was what when I was looking at it, like this was like a clear anachronistic decision in terms of like, because most of the base,
Breaking the mold.
that leather jacket, like that's just a jacket.
Yeah.
It doesn't have pockets, but besides that, like everything about it is totally wearable.
Yeah.
It's the pockets and the collar.
Pockets in the collar.
So we added pockets, we added a collar, and the other one thing is the yoke in the show version has holes.
Yes, millions of little holes.
Millions. They're again little deltas.
Are they deltas?
Yeah,
They look like holes. This one looks like it's just holes.
yeah.
That one
They
maybe-
are supposed to be deltas.
Okay, well this version of it maybe isn't.
That's possible. Yeah. So there are these little holes, and I think that they're supposed to be deltas. Yeah, they are. They're really small, and it's just the resolution of it. They're vertical. You can kind of see little triangles.
But only barely.
They're so tiny, but
They look like 1,000 tiny holes.
Yeah, which I think 1,000 tiny holes on the shoulder, the top portion of your jacket, that makes your jacket a jacket with holes in it.
Slightly less functional.
Significantly less functional. Very cool looking. Adds a
Great breathability.
Adds a really cool texture to the whole to the whole thing. It turns your then you don't have as solid of a color because you've got the black lining underneath it. But
yeah,
even if we could have figured out a way of, I didn't even look into it. I was just like, that doesn't seem like a way to
that's
do
not
it.
it. Yeah.
I'm sure that there would have been a way for us to like implement that, tiny little cuts, but it just.
I mean, there are materials that have holes in them.
Yeah.
So talk to me about this material. Why did you go with this faux?
We don't work with leather.
Yeah. Why don't we work with leather? They ask in the comments.
There are a bunch of reasons why we don't work with leather. There are practical, logistical reasons, and then there are ethical reasons. And it's enough for me to say we just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's a totally different process. Working with leather, while it ends up with a jacket that looks like it's got seams and it does all the same things that are like sewing it is the same, but cutting it is totally different. Sourcing it is totally different. Making sure the material is really nice. All that stuff. It's a totally different process.
Yeah.
And it's still a different set of machines to get it to look really nice.
Yeah. That's the shortest version.
That's the logistical side. The ethical side is I don't know how we could possibly get like humanely sourced leather at a price that isn't like, oh, this jacket is $1,200 or $2,500. Like,
yeah,
it's just not. That doesn't seem sort of tenable.
Right. Yeah.
Happy cows is my jam. So, and I couldn't figure out. I have no way of figuring out a way of
validating that.
And then on top of that, the logistical side, it's like,
yeah.
It's just a road I don't even want to go down.
Yeah. I will say that this vegan faux leather is pretty awesome in terms of
really
durability and in terms of its like wearing. It doesn't feel. Yeah, it feels.
It's a very rare
really
material.
Nice.
A lot of these faux leathers don't look. They don't hold up. They don't look like leather.
Yeah.
They lose a lot of. They either have like the pattern is too small, and then you just see the repeating like.
Yeah. I will say that like 90% of the products on the marketplace that call themselves leather are either reconstituted leather, which is like recycled leather and doesn't do any of the things that leather does, or it is faux leather and being called leather in the same way that, sugar is also often branded like.
Yep.
Like no sugar in this fruit juice, just highly concentrated grape sugars.
Yeah, no added sugar, but it's extremely complicated, concentrated juice.
Yeah, or like, that's just a packaging. It's kind of a packaging gimmick. I would say that maybe 90% of the leather out there in the market is
cheap leather,
not real, is not high quality leather.
That sounds like a made up number, but I'll go with the concept.
I think it's like pretty high. New products being made out of leather, I think they're either really high end handbags.
Yep.
I think there are some motorcycle clothing companies that still do legitimately make things out of leather. Mm-hmm. I think there are some belt companies, like you can probably still buy a leather belt, a real leather belt. But for jackets and outerwear, it's the pickings are slim.
Okay.
I believe.
Great. Either way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for us.
Yeah. Unless we can do it at like a high caliber, we kind of try not to get into the game.
Yeah. It's just, that's just not our jam. But this faux leather is really nice. I have found other faux leathers that are really expensive but really cool.
Yeah.
It would be awesome, but like there's a myco leather which is all mushroom.
Cool.
It's like made out of mushrooms.
Oh, I've seen the like cactus leathers too.
There's
I don't know how
leathers.
they like hold up. We would have to do some tests.
Yeah. So those are cool. They're sort of they're far out there for me. But it would be very cool if they become like actually sustainable and reproducible at a price that makes sense. It'd be very cool to make some. Most of those like the myco leather, you're getting pieces that are this big because of the way that they grow it.
Right.
And so then you can make handbags out of it.
It's grown.
Or wallets.
That's cool as shit.
Yeah, it's grown leather.
What?
I know, it's wild.
That's crazy.
To me, this jacket is like the coolest.
It is Star Trek like becoming cooler.
Yeah.
And it is in some way like Strange New Worlds is a great balance of cool and a little bit of cheesy.
Yeah.
Like I'm here for a little bit of the cheese. I enjoyed and continue to enjoy a little bit of cheese on my Star Trek.
To me, this feels like the next gen crew was just like, can we do it but cool?
Yeah.
And it works. They all have the clout. Like I feel like everything Patrick Stewart wears in the entire series is just like, I don't want to wear that. I'm going to wear this instead. And like I'd like to wear this material.
Yeah.
Just make me a Star Trek-y jacket out of this.
You think it's secretly Patrick Stewart is the wardrobe designer?
No, I think Patrick Stewart is the wardrobe designer based on like what he's like, I want to wear something nice.
Yeah. Nice. Possible? Who knows?
Yeah, because he's got like a bunch of different wool jackets that he wears at different points. It's just,
Yeah. Well, or maybe they just know they have Sir Pat Stew on their hands and they have to treat him right.
Yeah. So, right. It's a little bit like making sure his shoes are comfortable, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, a good costume designer like makes their actor happy.
Apparently.
Especially if they have a Sir Pat Stew on their hands. Right?
The Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars, the Peter Cushing was like, I don't want to wear those boots. So he just wore sneakers for the whole like time he was on set, and he just made sure that they only shot him from the waist up.
And then now it's like part of his character that he looks kind of imperious and only
Yes.
from the waist up.
Yeah, so you just never saw his feet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think I would be that kind of obnoxious actor if I was on set. I would be like, yeah, do I have to do this?
Yeah, well, you have to get to the point
Yeah,
of the,
I know.
of the Pat Stew
I
to
might
get
not
there.
make it. I might not make it that far.
Pretty sure you will. Yeah.
Thanks.
I know I wouldn't.
Thanks, babes.
Anyway, that's our Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, we obviously have quite a large Star Trek collection, and you should check them out. We're debating making a separate Star Trek like spot landing page. You can certainly filter
Because there's so many.
because there's so many, so you can just like get the full Star Trek experience. But either way, you can always search and filter for Star Trek on our site, and they. Yeah.
We have some new Star Trek stuff coming up. I don't
What's your
remember
favorite
when.
piece from our Star Trek collection?
Oh boy.
Right on the spot.
I really like the Voyager jacket.
Well, you just really like Voyage.
I just really like Voyager.
Yeah.
But I
There's
also
nothing wrong with that.
think, I mean, this jacket is so cool. Like when you put it on, it's like, yeah, this is a cool Star Trek jacket.
Yeah.
So it's between these two. I actually really liked the gold version of this.
Yeah.
But it was less popular.
People always when we
Probably-
analyze our sizing trends in Star Trek, it's like women
Our
want to
colors?
be in sciences and command.
Yep.
If we're looking at like next gen colors, and men tend to want to be in engineering and command.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, that is how the sort of color data spread
Yep.
seems to go.
But we have to make all of them,
Otherwise,
or
yeah.
we just make command.
Power Ninja 135 wants to know if we're going to make more DMC products.
So we would love to make more DMC products. It depends a lot on the licensor and what their plans are, and Capcom has more specific plans about the way their products work and what products can be made from different licenses than some of our other licensors. So it's more of a negotiating point. It may not be possible, unfortunately.
We can say that we will make another Capcom product in the next year from a different IP. You can go wonder what IP that might be if you'd like.
Yes, we can say that.
Tree Teresa asks, what are the differences between the new Nero and the older Nero?
The remastered Nero. It was made in China with our trusted factory there that is RAP certified. And because of that, it allowed us to custom dye the fabric more specifically towards the character design.
So it's a little more true to the character.
It's a little more true. It allowed us to do, we had to source all new materials and all new hardware and things like that. So it allowed us to do it in a way that was a lot more coherent. And because we were, able to custom dye the fabric, we got, it's a richer blue.
Yeah.
It's closer to the actual blue of the character in the game. And then also the hardware is all like this matching sort of mirrored silver, which is also true to the character of the game. So,
Nice.
so the
remastered version is really like a little better color, a little crisper, a little more coordinated.
Yeah.
Which is why we called it the remastered.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit shinier.
It's a little bit shinier. Like overall, this is the shiny Pokemon card.
And those sort of apply to the all black version, the demonic heritage. The same hardware is used on that, so it's all coherent and in a really nice way.
Yeah.
There was a comment that I saw on one of our Instagram posts. Someone asked, we mentioned when we first announced doing international manufacturing that it might result in lower prices of our products. And they said, what happened there? Because it really hasn't to a certain degree.
Externally, it certainly hasn't, and there are some products that definitely have a similar price point. We've only kind of just begun, I feel like. We have a number of products coming out in the next half of the year that we wouldn't even have dared to make at an American-made price point because the costs also just keep jacking up. I don't know if you've...
Yep.
But there is nothing that is getting cheaper in 2025. Tariffs notwithstanding, cost of goods is not getting less.
Well, so there
are categories like we haven't even touched. Like we haven't made a hoodie in years because the cost has been so high, and now we will be releasing some hoodies. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about hoodies.
Yeah.
Because they're just like fun and easy, And
easy to wear.
It's really hard to like only make very serious badass coats. It's gonna be so satisfying to have some like fun hoodies.
A little more casual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my thought when I saw that was a couple of things. One, boy, we announced international manufacturing a year ago, and we've only released like a handful of products.
Yeah.
And we thought, for one, that we would be releasing a lot more, that the process would go a lot faster.
Yes.
And so
Naively,
most of our products since we made the announcement have been made in the United States.
Right.
And only
It's
a
not like
handful
we just
happened.
like switched on over and that's everything we make now is
That
it's
said,
not at all the case. We
yeah.
have made some pieces overseas, but quite a
that
few
said,
still.
most of the things that we have made overseas have been made or are in product categories that we weren't able to do before at a price that we even thought it was worth launching a product. So,
Yeah.
so yes, it has made products cheaper, but not in a way that is visible. So like this smuggler shirt we just launched is $95.
Yeah, that's massively cheaper.
Previously, I mean, and the nice thing about that is we do make a decent profit margin on it.
Right.
In comparison to when we were selling it for $225 and we were making a very poor profit margin on it. So we're able to make some profit on a product that is more than half the cost or less than half the cost of the same product when we made it in the United States.
And why is that? Why is it so much more?
Why is it so much more to make it here?
Yeah, because there are a lot of factors and it's not just...
It has a lot to do with cost of living.
Mm-hmm. It also has a lot to do with fabric availability and sourcing. I feel like shirts especially, like what we're paying for the yardage is like a third of what it would be if we had it in the United States. Because the stuff in the United States is the same stuff as it's being made over there, but to get it here costs so much more. It's like being shipped back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah,
Whereas,
I think when we're making, so this shirt the smuggler shirt was made in India. The cotton was farmed and milled in India.
Right.
So there are so many, so when we make something in the United States, we're usually sourcing from a United States source.
Yep.
But they usually get the product made somewhere else, in
Right.
India or Egypt or something like that.
And then they need to make a margin on it.
And then they make a margin on it. So by the time we buy fabric in the United States, we are already paying
At least two people, at least
a couple of layers of middlemen
An
and
importer?
imports.
an importer, a finisher, and then a reseller potentially. So that's like a minimum of 3 people who've already been paid on the fabric we're buying in the States.
Yes. So that has a big part of it. It's between the cost of living and just getting materials. Both things are much more expensive.
Are massively more efficient. Yeah.
So there's that. The other point is there are things that we will make overseas where the price will not change very much even if we were to make the same product here in the United States. The reason I think for that is, one, we like making really nice products.
That's true. We don't make it easy. We try and like make it the best version.
And when we work with overseas factories, we have a lot more options in materials. We have a lot more options in finishing and all this stuff. There's a skill level because of the base level of
Pain in the assery.
No,
That's not the term.
of the industry. The industry there has existed for a lot longer of apparel making. So the skill level of the actual stitchers and producers is better than, on average, what you can do here. And they have the machines because they're bigger facilities. So we can make nicer products using nicer materials and keep our price point relatively level with what it would be here in the United States. That, to me, it's hard for me to cut cost when I could make a nicer product. And I try and balance that.
Yeah.
But every time I find a fabric where I'm like, oh, that's pretty expensive, but we've saved some money on the labor, so now we can make a really nice thing.
Right. Yeah, we've always kind of wanted to be, it's almost hard to say out loud, but like we would really like to be the best.
Yeah.
We would like to be the best in gaming fashion, not
we
the cheapest.
want to make really nice things.
You can go to Hot Topic and get a fine t-shirt, but that's not what we want to do. We would really like to offer you something, to be something different. I think that when we've made decisions about cost cutting, we often end up with a product where 80% happy with. And that doesn't feel great.
Yeah, if the overall price could be 15% less and kind of the same in terms of quality and construction and materials, or it could be the same and like 50% better.
Yeah.
That's
hard.
the difference that we're looking at. It's like, you know, we could cut $30 off, or we could make it twice as good.
Yeah.
For the same price. So that is something that we didn't know when we talked about this a year ago when we said we were launching international manufacturing. We didn't really know that because we hadn't been through product development for like 10 different products.
Right. Yeah. And
now we've done that.
So different for every factory in every country. There's like just different stuff. Yeah.
So that's the broad, I think, response to that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We are reading your comments, just in case you're wondering. David and I do lurk on the internet and wonder what people are saying.
Well, Willow, I've loved talking about Star Trek with you and the Scoundrel shirt. This has been The Real Endgame is Fashion, and we'll see you next time.
Stay badass, my friends.